This dude was responsible for saving lives.
All animals
He
must
was in the
remain
military.
in carriers or be
He
held
has
by
no
their
idea I'm behind him.
at all times.
Totally
while
oblivious.
in the terminal.
It's just us down here. He has no idea what's going on. I'm just gonna keep following.
You go right. You can't do it. Stop. Put it on.
Twice baked potato.
Put it on and take it off.
You take it.
If you strip it down,
bake it once,
you
strip
won't
everything
taste the
out,
same if you
put
do
it in a
that.
bowl.
You
It doesn't make sense.
Okay, where are we gonna get a fucking
Why
bowl?
would you bake it twice?
Where are we gonna get a bowl?
Why are you gonna cook it again?
Okay, good call.
I'm Logan. Welcome to Clapped Out. Rye really likes this liquid death water. And we had to make a special trip to buy it for him.
You say special like it was.
All right, shake it out, dude. Shake it out. It's been a minute since we've done a video together. So, if you're wondering, this shell of a man who's 60 pounds lighter now than the last time we were on camera together.
Hey guys.
I lost 26 pounds. He had to lose 60.
Called me out. It's cheaper than a lithium battery.
Any hoodle. We have some parts to install. Well, I'm gonna not really install. Test fit, I guess, review. What do you call that?
Mock-up.
Mock-up?
Mock-up.
Is that Russian? Mock-up? Little known fact about myself, and actually Rye as well. He'll come into the story in just a second. But prior to being in the motorsports world, one of the owners of Motion Raceworks, Doug Cook, and myself worked kind of simultaneously with stage animals. And one of those animals was Benny, one of the tigers for Siegfried and Roy. Doug was always responsible for relaxation, therapy, and spa time. I was responsible for shaving their hindquarters because when they'd sit down and take a dookie, it would get dingleberried up and they couldn't move. They couldn't act right on stage if they were dingleberried up. We had a specific dingleberry removal. He's him right there. That's the guy that did it, the removal expert. His favorite method to get rid of dingleberries?
Weed eater, usually. It gets real thick back there. Sometimes you gotta get the bush hog out.
So now you have a little history lesson on kind of, what we've been through as a team since the early days. But today, I'm actually going to be doing a little bit of mock-up, which is not a Russian term. I've learned that today. We're going to be dropping this Motion Raceworks steering column. Also, should we tell them it's not a paid promotion? We had to pay full price for this stuff?
Yeah.
So we're going to rip them apart in reviews. How dare you not give YouTube sensations like us? How many followers do we have? 7?
16.
16? 16?
16.
16 total?
16.
We should have. Their coupon code clapped to the front for no % off. Obviously, I'm kidding. That coupon code probably doesn't work. Unless it does work, that'd be kind of cool. Slyly giving people discounts with our name.
Or we can just cut this out and then just claim it.
We don't cut anything
Take
out.
up any of your grievances with
Doug at dougcook.motion/raceworks.
Yes, Doug Cook at
.gov?
Org.
.org gov.
There you go.
All right, so come on.
What?
Come on. Why does it scare me?
Are you done? You were talking about tiger colonics. Let's go.
Ooh, tiger colonic. Did we just name the car? God. No. All right. Okay, so I'm going to just rewind. We're not going to name the car Tiger Colonics or Big Cat Colonics yet, but that's kind of a front runner.
That's a good one. That's a t-shirt.
So here's...
Sure.
Okay. But in all seriousness, what we're doing is Motion makes these claims, save £1 million off of your steering column. That's how I read all advertisements, not just Motion Raceworks. But this is a non-tilt factory column out of a G-body with a wheel on it. Obviously, this doesn't have a wheel, but I have a wheel sitting yonder way. We're going to weigh them back to back. We're going to see the difference in weight, and we're also going to mock up this unit in the G-body to show you how easy or terrible it is to actually put in. What do you think of that?
Yeah, but you gotta, yeah, sure. Yeah,
Well, not if you're going to be negative about it.
no, I'm not. I'm just, good scale.
You seem down on yourself.
I'm not.
You look down on yourself.
I look down at the
You have like emo kid on the playground stance right now. But the bulge is like on point right there, buddy boy. First up on the docket, factory wheel. Here, hold that up. Let me see what kind of steering wheel it is. I don't remember. But this is one of my favorite part of this thing. We almost want it to be a quick release. And even when this is bolted in, there was so much slop, you felt like it wasn't going to be a good show. So hop up on the scale. What do we got for a weight? I know this is really finite. 240.4? Okay, pop off.
All right, hold on.
Steering
Here,
wheel.
got you.
It's a bag of hardware. You can pretend and add an ounce for screws.
Okay. What do we got?
229.4. So a non-tilt column and versus a motion setup is 11 pounds. Accurate? 229.4 to 240.4?
And you will actually save much more weight. If you look at this too, if you have a column shift car, your column shifter's not in here. There's some of the other hardware that's missing. If you have a tilt car, there's gonna be even more weight savings on it. If you have a factory wheel, you probably have even more weight savings. See where I'm going with this?
All right, another thing with these steering columns, and seems inconsequential, but trust me, it'll make sense in a second. I bought these down and forward turbo manifolds off of a guy on Facebook, and shout out to that dude. That's a whole nother story I'll get into in another video, but these came in, and he told me that I need a different steering rack. I'm sorry, a different intermediate shaft. The other thing about the factory intermediate shaft is it's this sloppy rag joint special, and over time, these things just wear out. That rubber gets all dry rotted, and you get a lot of slop in your steering. And one of the options on Motion sites with the new steering rack, I'll let Rye tell you about.
So you get the double D intermediate shaft, and then he has all the adapters to go from the motion column down to the factory steering box, or if you're doing a rack and pinion car, whatever you need on here. Then also we have the hardware in order to bolt the steering wheel into the quick release.
Quick release, why don't you show how that sucker does?
So this is fully SFI rated. Now there's a whole bunch of quick releases on the market from a variety of other companies that you can get, but this one has a kind of important sticker on it, SFI. In order to get that sticker, this thing has to go through basically a test where it's on fire, and you have to still be able to get this off of here after so many seconds of being on fire, which means there's no plastic inside of here to melt and break down. Some of the other stuff that's on the market, the cheaper ones. So if you're buying your quick release on Amazon, there's a reason it's cheaper, because if that thing catches on fire and say you need to get the steering wheel off the car to get out of the car, then you're not gonna be able to do that if all the plastic melts.
I knew all that stuff about the SFI too. I was going to say all that. But he's the one that said it instead of me. But that's the reason I went that direction, is because I knew that. Just so everyone knows, I knew that too.
All right, so Rye is the install man on this. Good job, dude, good job. Prepping, did you hurt your arm? Just stop hitting your elbow on everything, dude. So I showed this in another video. Whoever did this firewall job before I got the car, props. You guys really got away with a cutoff wheel up here. I don't know. It literally looks like a beaver got a hold of this. But Rye is gonna feed the power steering, that's funny, the steering rack through. And I'll show you guys kind of an inside look at installation once you get the old one out. And you can kind of get an idea. Go ahead, Rye.
Installed.
We got two nuts that hold it to the dash frame underneath. And then on the inside of the engine bay, the firewall, you can see that plate is bolts into the factory location. If you had a factory cutout, this wouldn't all be missing. I'm just assuming. Maybe I'm wrong, Rye. You think this is factory?
Yeah, this is not a factory cut.
So, take a step back, and you can already see. Well, actually, you can't because I don't have the intermediate shaft. All right, intermediate shaft. Explain this to them one more time.
So this is a solid double D 3/4 inch. That's pretty much like an industry standard. Most of your steering shaft stuff is 3/4 of an inch. They call it double D because basically this would be round if it didn't have these flat machine sides. So you have a D on this side and then a D on this side. There's single D, there's double D, and then there's just 3/4 inch round. If this thing wasn't going to be driven on the street as much as he says he will, which I doubt, you could use round chromoly tubing 3/4 inch and you can save a bunch of weight. In my opinion, that's race car stuff, and you leave it on the track. But street car, so we're gonna do the heavy duty stuff.
That's good, man. Yeah. Everything was solid in that whole thing. One of my favorite things, the last time Rye came to help me with an install, this is years ago when I had the RX-7 still, and I was living in a different city. That doesn't matter. What does matter is I bought a plasma man intake manifold, and it came with like a ton of bolts. It was this billet intake, and Rye came through to help me, and he left. And then I walked in the garage, and I had bolts everywhere. It's like he put them in his palm, and he confettied them all over the... It's exactly what he did.
One thing to note about this go-together process, just as an aside, is you can bolt the stuff together or you can weld it together.
Okay, why don't you run through the bolt together process first?
Oh, okay. Glad you asked. So one thing that's nice about this stuff is that you can either weld it together or bolt it together. It comes with all these Allen set screws, and I don't know who this guy Allen is, but he's pretty smart. If you look at the bottom of it, it's got these little knurls, these teeth that will bite into all the components that you are screwing them onto. So obviously the spline version goes here on the steering box. Thusly, make sure that this sits in here, because if it's back up here and you crank it down on those splines, well, it's gonna live there probably forever.
And you'll jack your splines up.
Yeah, nobody likes to jack their splines off. All right, and this side right here has a smooth side with no set screws, and there's no threads for them. This goes onto the actual steering column, that 3/4 inch piece of round stock that's in here. Slide it on there. Sometimes they'll go in a little too far. If it goes in too far and jams against the universal joint, you're gonna have a bad time, and the universal will not be so universal. And then this portion up here, you're gonna have to do a little bit of legwork on your own. You're gonna need to get a nut and a bolt. Highly recommend utilizing grade 8 hardware on anything steering related, because it's stronger than most of the standard stuff that you get at your hardware store.
There you have it. So kind of going over the components, the ease of installation. If we weren't chatting this whole time, Ryan, how long do you think it would take to install this?
10 minutes tops for the car that's in this condition. If it's all put together from the factory, probably an hour.
I think the only thing that sucks about doing this job with a factory car is you got to get underneath a 1970s, 1980s dash that has had who knows what living in it for however long. You get all that stuff in your eye and you're full of asbestos, and then your buddy Rye has to come see you at the hospital.
The factory hardware, you can see it protruding through here, just these pointy screws. If I get my arm out of the way. Rye, on the back side of this, while he was installing it, he had a point to make.
With the factory stuff that comes in here, it's like a real, I don't know what you call it, like coarse thread, like it's almost like a giant.
I got you. I got my labeled handy dandy. It's like this stuff.
I thought of a technical name for that kind of screw.
Yeah, what'd you call it? A coarse handy dandy?
It's like a lag bolt wood screw. It looks like self-tapping screws. In the 80s, General Motors and all build quality was absolutely
Awesome.
shit.
Really good.
And they use these things everywhere, to include putting this in. The holes on the motion piece here are much larger than the diameter of this, so I always tell people to grind those little blocks of metal right here. You can grind those off flush, drill this out, and then put, again, grade 8 hardware in here, because that does two things. One, it's a stronger mount, and then two, it looks better. And then actually there's a third thing. These are like punji sticks.
Yeah.
If you don't know what punji sticks are, find a Vietnam veteran and ask him.
Go get the bell housing out and you're cutting your wrists open on that thing like crazy.
Dude.
As far as intermediate shaft goes, Rye, take it over. What do we got going on here?
Are you done trying to Thomas A. Swift electric rifle me?
I don't know what that means.
It's taser means.
A Thomas.
Thomas A. Swift electric rifle. Everybody knows
That's
that.
what it stands for?
Yeah, you thought taser was just a word? It's an acronym, you idiot. Everybody.
I'm done tasing. I'm done with it. You said earlier taser, but it's not actually. It's actually it's not a taser. It's more of a stun gun, because tasers shoot. Did you not know that?
I forgot that part, but
Rye told me that off camera, and I'm trying to pretend like I know all about it.
okay.
All right, intermediate shaft. Back to the business.
All right, a few considerations to take in here. So one of my biggest frustrations with putting on a quick release steering wheel is when it's dark and you're in the car and you can't see anything, that you are sitting there fumbling with the steering wheel. The car in front of you is trying to move up and go to the race. The guy behind you is honking at you in the lanes. You're like, dude, I'm trying to get my gear on. It's like when you're at 7-Eleven, you pay for your lottery tickets, and then you're trying to put your change back inside of your wallet, and the guy behind you just
Shut up and get to the steering wheel. God in heaven.
I mean, I talk a lot. I do. I talk a considerable amount. I didn't mean thorough, dude. It's okay. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to get mad.
What he was getting at a second ago was orientation of the steering wheel. And one thing on this quick connector is the head of the ghost, right? The big part up there, not the small detents there, but the large one. Detent's not the right word, but you know what I'm saying. Orient that straight up. And that way, if you're in the car, the orange stripey. Just look for that and just line the orange stripey on the big dingle, and then boom.
You're race ready, baby.
Now that we got the steering wheel orientation squared away, the wheels are straight, so you know that the big dingle is always going to be straight up. Rye can jump into intermediate shaft, a couple talking points from him.
So one of the things you want to make into account take into account is the orientation of the universals on these universal joints. Much like a drive shaft underneath the car, they are clocked. If you took this piece right here and it was turned thusly, this is still going to work, but you're going to feel a bind as the universal joints work back and forth. They need to work in unison. It's like timing, basically.
A symbiotic relationship.
Smooth operate.
So this is the double D bar that they give you.
Nice.
And Rye, what are you doing here?
I am going to mark it and figure out how long we have to cut it.
Little mark job.
Remember,
this is precise.
it's easier to take it off than it is to put it back on.
Oh, this is good.
So
No, this is not going to end up well.
you want to give yourself a little bit of extra breathing room here.
This will be a nice time lapse. Let's skill. Oh, shit. And there you have it. It's movie magic. What'd you have, Rye? You had something else?
So final thoughts, hashtag Jerry Springer. The severed screws? What the fuck? Why severed screws?
Severed screws.
Set screws. Jeez.
Severed set screws. One more try. What do you got?
So added insurance on here, like we talked about before, you can fully weld this thing out. But remember, there's going to come a day where you may need to take this thing apart. So unless you want to remove your new steering column or the steering box because you welded all this together as one piece, you want to leave yourself something, a disconnect point. That's entirely up to you to decide. And then if you use the set screws here, for added insurance, you can remove the set screws entirely. Well, crank them in there, mark the spot, and then when you take this apart, you can drill a little bit of a depth here so the set screw has something to bite into.
Like a locator.
Yes, exactly.
Good. That's a good idea, dude. All right. And that's all there is to it. This isn't obviously bolted up, just giving you guys the idea of the look. The 2 bolts up top, the 4 bolts on the firewall side, the quick release mounting that up, and the intermediate shaft. Now, if we didn't talk like idiots this whole time, how long do you think this install would take?
On this car, as current configuration, maybe 10 minutes tops.
Well, I mean, what if you weld the intermediate shaft? Then how
I
long?
mean, if you got a welder and it's already set up, 12 minutes.
It takes you 2 minutes to weld one of those?
Yeah, if you're
You're fast.
welding. Are we doing MIG, TIG, stick welding? Which one? Huh? What do you want to do?
Do you want to stick
How do you
weld?
want
So
it?
I'll give you
How do you
something to
want it?
stick weld. Anyway, that is the end of this video. But stay tuned because in just about a week, this goon and myself will be flying to Maryland to support and watch and cover the Hall Tech. I guess say the brand that promotes it.
I always forget if it's Haltech or Haltech.
Hall Tech World Cup Finals. Maryland International Raceway.
Very excited.
We're going to do a whole series of videos like we did last year and cover that stuff. So stick around and watch the outro. Let's get it. If you're asking about
Why
it,
are they-
it's
they-
not. It's okay. So
keep 'em in
you
a
don't even
cage.
know what you're talking about because
And they clip
they've
the
always
wings.
grown on trees.
And people think just because they talk
Welcome
to you,
to
they
an
go,
avocado
"Ooh,
bush. No,
that's
it's
pirate."
avocado tree,
And it's
dude.
Pirates
They
put 'em on
fall
their
from
shoulders
above.
and they have a stigma.
You're a pirate.